Laura, you've been with the show right from the beginning, obviously.
Yeah.
As one of the Crawley sisters.
Mm-hmm.
What was the moment when you realised just quite what a massive international hit the show was?
I don't know really. I always find it quite difficult because it was my first television job. So I was so excited anyway and so happy to be in the company of actors that I was in that I was excited from day one. And it was when, I guess, maybe October, November time of the first series airing that Hugh Bonneville said, Laura, by the way, they're not all like this. Not every single TV job you have will be received as well as it was. And then it aired in America in January the following year, and Joan Rivers tweeted. I remember that was like a thing. That Sophie McShearer, who plays Daisy, called me up to tell me. That was quite a big deal. But I mean, it's just been a slow realisation of how loved the show's been.
Yeah, I mean, Penelope, you must have done press and promotion all over the world. Have you been to places you always wanted to go?
Well, you're asking the wrong person because I've been to Stockholm and Los Angeles, and that's because
Not
I've
Bogota.
been working. No, not Bogota, because being a little bit older, I can't manage the jet lag. But Laura's been to more places than I have. But I was very well received in Stockholm, especially as I was with Jim Carter, who plays Carson, and we were walking down the road together, and middle-aged men came up to him and said, "You are my hero," and thought I was his wife. So, because if you're wearing a wig, you're in deep disguise, but you can't not be recognised if you're Jim Carter.
No. So, Chris, you are the producer of Downton Abbey. You have been for the last couple of seasons, but you've worked on it since series 2, I think, in one guise or another.
Yeah, so I started as a second assistant director,
Yeah.
and then I've had a very lucky career path on this show. So I started as second assistant director, then I became the first assistant director, so I was in charge of all the scheduling and running the floor, and then I've produced the last 2 seasons.
So do you are the guy who literally runs the show day to day.
Yeah.
So do you have a sense in your bones of what it is that makes Downton such a massive hit?
I mean, it's a strange one. I think for me the fundamental reason it's successful is everyone loves period dramas, and in Britain we do period dramas so well, but obviously quite often they're an adaptation. So if you're watching Pride and Prejudice, most people know how it ends, whereas nobody knows what's happening next week on Downton. And I think that's serialisation. That's one of the reasons.
We do.
We know how it ends. But I think that's what keeps people coming back each week, because they literally have no idea. And so I think that's the key to success. Yeah.
And also you get the modern day storylines, don't you? So there is sex before marriage or homosexuality in a way that there wouldn't have been in a Jane Austen.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely add storylines that you don't have in those classic novels, which I think keeps it feeling fresh and new. Yeah.
So Anna, you are the costume designer. You run the costume department. What does that mean on a costume drama?
Well, for me, everything. It's sort of the look of everything, from the hats through the clothes, accessories, jewellery, bags, down to the shoes, and creating a cohesive overall look. So when you've got your principal characters, they're backed up by a huge number of crowd, and you're kind of painting, I guess, with the costumes to create palette and tone and characterization and to give it an atmosphere. And then within the principals, you're telling their story, helping to tell their story, to give their character journeys added depth through costume.
So give me an example of how you can, because as a person who uses words to tell stories, that really fascinates me. Give me an example of how a character's journey has moved on through
I
costume.
think a classic example would be with Edith, Lady Edith, and the sort of emotional arcs that she goes through, and sort of the darker times and the lighter times, and using costume to pull focus when you need to, and use palette and tone to kind of draw things back. And every item of clothing that everybody puts on in the 1920s and today is sort of governed by how you're feeling. So it's there's a psychology to it all. So you're tapping into that.
I have to say that we would be nowhere if it hadn't been for Anna and her wonderful costumes, because exactly what she's described today is something that you lean on when a piece like this. There's never really a scene that you play like a scene that you would play in normal drama. The scenes are very quick, and there are 18 principal characters, of which there are at least 10 stories going on in each episode. So you have to make an immediate definition with what you're doing. And if it hadn't been for Anna, we would find that very difficult.
So do you discuss the costumes with the actors in advance to see what they need for the scene?
Yes, it's quite a collaborative process, and some cast members want to be more involved than others. I mean, we have quite in-depth discussions about how we want to take things forward. I mean, I think I'm the person with the overview, so I know that there's certain things we can't do because I'm keeping certain sort of accents of colour or whatever within each scene. But as a sort of general principle, it's definitely a kind of unified approach to it.
And of course, Anna, you've been with the series, I think, for the last, is it 3 seasons or 2 seasons?
Yeah.
So obviously when you joined, it was already
massive.
massive. Did that give you pause at all?
No, I just ran on headlong into it, but I was aware of needing to be at some pace when I started, and having to come up to speed very quickly in terms of knowing the cast and how costumes worked on them. And I mean, obviously there was a kind of great deal of expectation and a high standard set. And
obviously Julian reinvents the show every year, every episode, every commercial break, actually. But in his writing, when you came on board, were there ways in which you wanted to change the show through the costumes?
I mean, I guess so. You always kind of want to make your mark on a production when you're costume designing, but you're also very aware of the fact that it has to be a very seamless transition through. So I always think of it like a relay race. The baton's got to be passed on seamlessly, so it's hardly noticed. I think what's helpful is that because it progresses through the years, I was coming in and doing something different anyway, because by definition 1924 was different. Was different from series 4. So, you know, I had a platform within which to work creatively.
And Penelope, when you joined, it wasn't. I mean, there was no show. It was you were one of the original cast. So, and as Peter Fincham said, there was no crystal ball. Nobody knew at that point that it was going to be the international phenomenon that it has become. When you first read the script, what were your initial impressions? What were your initial thoughts?
Well, I think we only had 3 scripts originally to read, and I thought it was extremely good storytelling, and that's what we do. Actors tell stories, and playwrights tell stories, and Julian tells a very good story. I was also very impressed by the fact that he had all these storylines going on, as I said before, in one episode or in one series. So it was like he'd written a police series, except made it a costume drama,
right,
because it worked as quickly as that. So you were kept up to speed with all these different, and that I'd never read before. It's not easy to do, because you never get into a scene. I think everyone would agree, because you're just getting into the scene and then you leave it. So you have to be very well aware of your storyline as you approach each scene that you do, because often you also film it out of sequence. So there are particular things that you have to be aware of when you're doing when we were doing Downton, that I haven't come across. I mean, I've done things out of sequence before, but not quite so.
It's incredibly snappy, isn't it? The cuts are very quick.
What's quite interesting as well is I actually did an exercise recently where I looked back at from series 1 to series 6 and the length of scenes, and actually, as we've progressed over the 6 seasons, they've got shorter. So, back to sort of season 2, when I was first sort of scheduling, there would be a lot of sort of 2-3 page scenes, and then the short scenes. Whereas now most scenes are only a page. He's almost the rhythm is changed.
So for the uninitiated, a page in the script is probably about 60 seconds on the TV,
exactly
roughly
that.
speaking.
Yeah, so we work a page a minute, yeah, that's roughly right.
Well, when you look at the picture behind us, how the cast picture of the regular characters has changed since series 1, there's a whole new wing of the regular characters. So Gillian has a lot more people to fit in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that obviously we've still got the same ensemble, and it has progressed and changed, and it's great. I love seeing the kids in there. That's my favourite. But and I think that's the same with one of the things that Julian's done so well is allowed after 6 seasons to keep it fresh. Like, we're not at the house as much as we used to be. If you look again back at season 1 to season sort of 5, and where we were out in 6, we are out and about more. We go to London, and then that's a great way of just keeping it feeling fresh and keeping the momentum.
So, Laura, I'm going to try and ask the right question to the right person this time, because you must have been on amazing foreign trips promoting the show.
I do feel like I've had a really great time going around.
Where was the most exotic place that you went?
I don't know. Obviously, I went to Montreal. I love Montreal. I mean, what's exotic? What's defined as exotic?
Oh, I don't know. Africa?
No, I haven't been to Africa.
India?
No. See, now we are going to sound like very boring.
Okay,
I feel like I've been to LA a lot.
to
I feel
anybody.
America has been really exciting for us because they've embraced it with such enthusiasm, and they have a lot of television there, a lot of fantastic television. So, and we really are, without tooting our own horn, they put us in the top of their lot. We're up for an Emmy on Sunday with 5 other shows, and so that's phenomenal, really. In amongst their incredible shows that they make there.
And from the fans, do you get a different response from people in the US? Do you think they relate to the show in a different way?
I think people are more they feel more able to come and talk to you about it, and I think we're probably more recognisable over there with the accent. When they hear that you have an English accent, they go, hang on, wait a minute, which I don't think happens very much over here. I can be quite I can escape work.
Can you
quite
go
easily.
to Sainsbury's? That's the litmus test.
Definitely. Really, in London, I don't think I get recognised that much, or if I do, people don't mention it. Whereas in America, it's quite funny. It's quite funny when I'm with Michelle together. We do have a real laugh because they just wet themselves. It's funny. I mean, as well, we're both in sort of ripped jeans and leather jackets, or something, really, and that.
And not sniping waspishly at each other
we're having a lovely time
the
and
whole
laughing our
time.
heads off.
Some of the time, maybe, but not all the time.
We're very close, so it's nice.
So I want to talk about the episode that we've just seen a bit, but first let's look back over the 5 years that we've already gone. I mean, Edith has had a bit of a journey. How would you sum up Edith's journey over the past 5 seasons?
Well, I just think she sort of started as this overlooked middle sister, maybe. I always think of her as being quite bookish and quite on the outside, and watching Mary and Sybil sort of flourish and being a bit away from that, and in love with her cousin Patrick, who was set to marry Mary, and just sort of slightly on the outside. But she's softened, and I think that happened with the war, and that was really interesting for me to watch how giving her a purpose and a job in the war sort of allowed her to be a nicer version of herself and feel a bit more self-worth. And that's only carried on, really, and she's had a lot of knocks romantically.
I was going to say, you're painting quite a positive picture.
I know, this does sound very weird.
Edith's she's had some very tough...
Yeah, but I think that's
She's
what's interesting.
constantly
She's
thwarted,
quite brave, and she does sort of she has carried on throughout it. So, and I think it's those knocks that have led her into a more interesting path, really.
It's a great, again, the arc of Edith has been amazing. If you again, as we've been doing a lot recently, sort of reminiscing on the past, as we naturally have as we come to the end, and you actually look at the character arc of Edith over the 6 seasons, it's just amazing. Especially now with the magazine, and it really is lovely to watch.
Well, and you guys didn't, I'm not sure if you actually saw the sizzle reel as it was playing up here, but there was just this, all of the highlights really.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of like the end of the Olympics when they show you all the gold medals, apart from obviously some people were dying. And you do realise just quite how much has happened to all the characters. I mean, Penelope, Isabel hasn't had an easy time either, has she, over the 5 years? It's been a sad journey for her.
Yes, it's been a sad and yes, it's been very sad, but it's also, she's sort of rallied too. And 1912 to 1926 is quite a long time. We've all got to know. What I felt very pleased about was that when my son Matthew died, usually, or quite often, a series in the next, when you start the next series, they say 8 months later, and everyone's got over the mourning and you're moving on, and it's never mentioned. But Julian did a very interesting thing, which was not to do that. So Mary and myself were actually in mourning for a year, which was what happened then. We only wore black, and in the summer we were allowed to wear cream, I think. Then vaguely towards the end we were allowed to wear purple. But it was a very interesting time, because actually people got involved with Isabel's loss. And if you have one child and you're a widow, it's a great loss. And he'd survived the war, and then he got killed in a very silly accident on the road. So that was a sort of very difficult thing for Isabel to manage. And actually Julian wrote that with great care, and then made it possible for Isabel to have a life within the family, because he brought her into the family, and the family welcomed her, the Granthams welcomed her into Downton. So it's been and then romantically, latterly, it's been quite interesting too.
You've been beating them off with a stick.
Well, isn't that refreshing when you get to my age?
Well, it's rather brilliant, isn't it? Have you enjoyed playing those romances?
Yes, I have, and also he's written it with a certain amount of sort of, suitable. It's been very interesting, and also my relationship with the Dowager Lady Grantham has flourished, because they need each other.
Yeah.
And they need each other to keep each other going, actually. The spirit with which they meet each other's battles keeps them young.
How is it playing those scenes with Dame Maggie when you're being waspish, when you're being witty with each other?
Well, it's great fun. I mean, that's all you can say. It's great fun, and she's a wonderful actress. So, how lucky am I? And we'd done the best exotic marigold hotels together as well. So, we sort of know each other quite well. And when you know someone, you can bat off each other.
And do you get on in real life? Or
Yes, very well. Yes, we're going.
No waspish banter?
No, not particularly.
It's a
We
shame.
have a bit of a laugh. Yes, she's got a very, very good sense of humour, and if not, I might say, wicked sense of humour. So it's a very enjoyable person.
I'm tempted to ask you for an example, but I don't think you would.
No, I don't dare.
But obviously the comedy between you two depends upon you both being absolutely, the characters being unaware of the comedy or denying it.
Well,
I mean,
that hopefully is acting. Because other than that, you wouldn't be employing me.
Do you ever corpse though? Is there going to be a Downton blooper
No, it's
reel
too
one day?
terrifying. As I say, these scenes last for a very short time, and you've just started and it ends. So we're both quite nervous, actually. And I don't think I'm the only one to say that. I mean, they are nerve-wracking, these scenes to play, because you just started and you finished. And it's not easy. I have to say, I found this quite tricky.
And Laura, thinking about romance again, obviously you've had a bit of romance. and then some tragedy
Yeah.
superseding that. What do you think the appeal is of the romantic storylines?
I don't know. We just like love stories, don't we? And whether they end well or not, which in the case for Edith has never been well. So yeah, I think it's sort of, it's always going to be interesting, and Julian does it so well, and so classically it feels. They always.
Did you know when you took up with Mr. Gregson? Did you know how it was going to end up?
No, I didn't.
So there was all this brave new hope.
Yeah.
And then you were thwarted again.
Yeah, it was awful, and I was desperately sending emails to Chris saying, please, please don't let this end badly.
Unfortunately, there's very, very little drama in Happy Families.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's it. I wouldn't, change my storyline at all. It's been so interesting to play those ups and downs, and the sort of tragic elements of Edith's story have been the best moments, and I feel incredibly lucky as an actor to sort of be trusted with them and allowed to explore that, really.
And thinking about what Anna does for both of you,
Mm-hmm.
Laura, do you have a favourite frock when you look back over 5
I have
years?
so many, but I'm just thinking of the trailer that you've seen, so I'm not spoiling anything. That trailer, which is on ITV at the moment with the beautiful music, where you can see my coat.
We're actually going to see that.
You're going to see that
in
in a
bit.
minute.
So.
Okay, well, look out for my coat. It's really nice, and it's original. And I think it was the first thing I tried, or one of the first things I saw on the rail.
Yeah.
When I came back in January, come back from LA.
Yeah, and actually I bought it at the beginning of Series 5 because it was just Edith through and through, but I didn't have a moment for it. And it just sat there, and then I read scripts in Series 6 and just went,
that's the one.
Yeah.
It
And
is
it sort of pops.
amazing. I was mixing the episode where it's in only a couple of days ago, and I was sitting beside Jess and Nikki, my two post-production coordinators, and in that scene they both went, "Oh, that coat is lovely." It really is amazing.
Yeah, it's really great.
And Penelope, how has it been to wear the costumes? Have they got more comfortable as the?
Oh, they've got more comfortable because we're not wearing corsets
Yeah.
anymore. And if you're in corset from 8 in the morning till 7 in the evening, and getting in and out of modern cars, because of course everything was geared to corsets when they really wore them. And now, cars lean back and you're in this very stiff thing, and you.
So you're in a
hold it.
Toyota Prius.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which aren't, as I know, not much headroom at the best of time, and
That's
you're trying
right.
to.
That's exactly right. All with an enormous hat on, and negotiating that's quite tricky. But actually, they have been a joy to wear, and also, as I said previously, they help so much. I mean, those gloves, and taking them off and rolling them up. I never knew that those little buttons were so you could take your hand up and roll your gloves up and wear them in a little roll there while you ate, and then you rolled them back. There's a whole sort of world of costume, which lends itself to helping you create the person you're trying to be, and also create the period, and also create those enormous dinners and lunches that we have, and scenes together. No, they've added in so much. We could not have done without these wonderful costumes.
Do you have a favourite?
Well, I did have a dress made, a 1926 dress made, which I've just had copied.
Could you not just nick it?
Unfortunately not, but one of Anna's wonderful seamstresses who work for her has made me a copy for something I have to go to, so I'm really delighted. And
I have to say, it's just one of the greatest compliments. That was just really lovely.
That is
but
rather
how lucky
good.
am I? I mean,
We always focus, the press always focuses, Anna, on the upstairs costumes, and particularly the ladies' dresses, but obviously there's a whole raft of people downstairs who also have to be
massive
costumed. Talk us through a bit how their costumes have changed over the years.
Well, they change in the same way that as time marches on, the cut and lines and fabrics and styling of things moves. but it's a slower transition. And actually the challenge with Downton is that because you've got less chance to ring the changes and show that progression, you've got to hit the nail on the head with one costume rather than describe it over 5 or 6. So it's a more kind of more concentrated process to get that change right. So if one of the downstairs staff bought a new coat, it would have to be practical enough to last them until it wore out, rather than because they wanted to change the styling. So they'd have to make very practical choices. And so everything, there's the less embellishment and less expensive fabric, but my job is still to make it interesting, so to keep the tones and the textures and things alive and vibrant, while still making it feel like it's a very practical working class piece of clothing.
And I guess for the footman and the butler and the under butler, as well as his lordship and the other gentlemen, there's probably quite a lot of formality involved in that and precise historical detail that you have to get in.
Absolutely, in terms of the uniforms. But in terms of civilian wear as well, there was still rules and conventions, and fabric choice had to be correct. More rules than we have today, definitely.
So let's think about the upcoming season. Let's think first about the episode that we've just seen. In season 1, the new word that we all had to learn was entail. I think this year it's almoner. You are the almoner of the almoner of the hospital. Please tell me what that is.
Well, she sort of runs things. She's like I don't know what you would call it now, but she sort of runs everything. She's an unpaid person in my case,
right?
And she deals with the finance and the putting people together. She sort of oversees.
So in the
things.
NHS, she'd have a gobbledygook job title and a 6-figure salary.
And be paid, exactly. In those days, she didn't. So that's what I do.
And your conflict with Dame Maggie is not waspish banter in that first episode. It's quite open and direct.
It's rather a modern argument. It's somebody who wants to, in Maggie's case, stay in a small cottage hospital, and in my case, wanting to join the larger hospital and be able to have more of the modern equipment to help people. And so it's an argument that's going on now.
Well, I mean, forgive me if this is a theory too far, but you are the show's social conscience, it seems to me. Isabel, she represents noblesse oblige.
I think that Julian has written a character who isn't one of the aristocracy, and neither is she downstairs, as it were, a working class in those days figure. She's what was then coming up, certainly not in 1912, but by 1926, it was the professional classes, and she's not ashamed of. In 1912 she was rather despised by downstairs for not being, as it were, posh enough for them to serve, and by upstairs because she wasn't posh enough to join their group.
Yeah.
So she sort of is the conscience, I suppose, in many ways.
Well, she's also, forgive me another theory, tell me to shut up with my theories, but she is in a way, because she's middle class and she's the only person, now we've got rid of that dreadful Miss Bunting, the only person who's not either upper class or in service, she is the viewer's way in a way, the
I think
middle
that
class.
is why she's been, that's indeed, she is a critique or critic. She's not always a malevolent critic of what's going on in the house, but she sees it from the outside, as a lot of the audience would do, in both areas.
And in quite a modern way.
And in quite a modern way. I often say about Isabel that if she had been alive today, she would have been the editor of the Guardian's Woman page.
Hang on. Aren't you about to be the editor?
No, I'm Carrie Bradshaw. I'm so we don't clash.
So you seem to have quite a lot going on. There's more in the air for Edith.
Yeah.
We don't quite see very much of it.
Well, I
in that
think
first
at
episode.
the first step, you see where she is now, which is she's managed to get Marigold into the house with some lie that's working. So does she rock the boat now and embrace a London life that's sort of open to her? She's inherited this magazine. She owns it. So it's whether or not she goes fully into that world, but then she's only just managed to work out a balance to keep this lie going. So she's a bit indecisive. And you'll see more of the magazine world and how difficult it is in the 20s to be a woman trying to boss a grumpy male editor around.
A little bit of a flavour of that in the phone call.
Yes, you'll see a bit more. He's a rotter.
Well, speaking of seeing a bit more, let's watch that extended version of the trailer. Look, can we run that, BT?
Look over the coat.
Thomas doesn't just want to be his friend, does he? Nobody's falling for that at this point. That is a nice coat.
What? It's not that coat.
It's not that coat?
It's a different trailer. It's the one that's on ITV with the music, with the song.
Oh, right,
With the
okay.
fur.
Okay.
You'll see it.
That
It'll
is
be-
also
but
a lovely
that's-
coat.
that's
It is a lovely
It's
coat.
also a lovely coat. It's a really nice coat, that one.
So, Chris, nobody really knows what a producer does all day. So talk us through, so it's a big set piece scene like The Hunt that we just saw. Never worked with children and animals. What was your role in all of that? How do you put that together?
Well, I suppose someone once told me, and I'm stealing this from actually Rupert, who was one of our previous producers. I always like the line that he says that producers are here to enable. And I suppose that's what I like to think, that I'm here to enable the best out of everyone, to get, to allow Anna and her team to do the best work they can, to allow the cast to do their work, to allow Minky, who directed this episode, to fully, have the vision that she wants. In terms of a practical day-to-day, I sort of am across everything, which sounds quite complicated, and it is. So, I have to be across every single department, every decision, every
And
day.
by that
decision.
you mean production design, costume, lighting,
locations,
hair and makeup.
We're a core crew of 80 plus, sort of 22 main cast. But actually, this season we've had 100 cast. So they, all of the guest cast have to be found, castings, all of that, and then obviously we're editing as we go along as well.
Yeah.
So I think one of the craziest points is about halfway through, where I am editing the first 2 episodes while shooting the next 2, whilst doing tech recce's and casting and prepping the next 2, while doing script work with Julian on the final block. So that, it's really spinning all those plates.
And presumably telling Julian to change his script is the most
No
fun
one
of
tells
all
Julian
of
that. I mean, in terms of that set piece, that hunt was a lot of planning. It's in terms of shoot days, it was the sequence outside the front of the house before everyone goes. That was a whole day to shoot that, and then there was 2 days for all of the. Well, actually 3 days if you include the stunt fall. And, again, really breaking it down. So working with Minky, because in the script, that hunt is 4 or 5 lines. But it's then going...
They go hunting,
They
she
go
falls.
hunting,
Yeah.
she falls, exactly, and so it's going, right, we want a big sequence here. So what toys are we throwing at it?
Yeah.
So, for instance, Hugh, I probably shouldn't say this, but Hugh isn't as confident a rider as some of the others. So looking at the practicalities of that, having
Okay.
Michelle, having
Journalist, that's your line.
yeah. And just sort of thinking about how we were going to break it down. So we did a storyboard for that whole sequence. So I think it was 80 different boards, breaking it down, and then looking at, right, okay, how are we actually going to shoot each of those shots, and the mechanics of how to shoot that. So we had a great piece of equipment called a Russian arm, which we've actually used a lot this series, which is a 4x4 vehicle with a V8 engine and a camera crane on the top of it. So as the horses are riding, you can do this thing at 70 miles an hour, keeping up. So, those shots of Michelle, the camera is literally right next to her, riding along.
Cross country,
Cross
not on the
country,
road.
yeah. And one of my favourite shots is with the hounds. I'm not allowed to call them dogs. I got hit by the guy with the horn for calling them dogs. The hounds, they were just darting through the woods, and we were, gunning. We were literally about 60 miles an hour, keeping along with them. And then they decided to veer off and come in front of the vehicle. And I think I nearly went through the windscreen. It was quite hairy, but an amazing shot. So, yeah.
So all worthwhile.
All worthwhile. And no animals were hurt in the making of this production.
I do want to open it up to the floor, so have your questions ready. But before I do that, I just want to try and tempt all of you into giving us a bit. Anna, I'll start with you, because you're perhaps the least likely to give anything terrible away. What kind of costume delights can we look forward to this season?
Beautiful ones.
Yeah.
Okay, this already isn't going well. Edith, how is this? You are the ambassador. If Isabel is the social conscience, you are the ambassador for the future. Is Edith? Can she find happiness?
Maybe. It's the worst. It's the worst it's ever been, this feeling for being scared of giving away spoilers, so please stop it.
Okay. Chris.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna torture you, Penelope. Chris, so Christmas Day night, we're all going to be watching the final episode. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sad are we going to be?
You should ask my wife. She was sat next to me on the sofa watching a cut the other night. I was just crying my eyes out. So, it's I can't give anything away, but it will do everything.
But you were crying your eyes out.
Yeah,
but it's going to be over though, so that's sad enough.
Yeah. I
Of
think
course.
that's what's brilliant about that with Downton is, in one episode you can laugh, cry, have absolute joy, and it's that roller coaster all the way through. I think, I'm not giving any spoilers away, but the great thing about this season is every year we try and push the boundary a bit more and push the boundary a bit more. And this year we have pushed it far. We have, I can't tell you what it is, but we have a set piece, which is the biggest ever set piece that I think period drama's ever tried to, take over.
It was expensive, right?
It's very expensive. And it
In the
took,
Christmas special.
I can't say. Which took
guys.
a year's planning. Literally, we started planning it a year ago, and it took a whole year of planning this one sequence.
So an important location then.
There are so many. There are some great ones this year, and if we were talking in a few months' time, I would say one of those, but I'm not going to.
Go on, just one. Is it in the big set piece? The one that's at Westminster Abbey?
No. I love doing the scenes with Michelle, and I think the things that I will think about and laugh about forever are ones with just me and Dockers. And so I'm thinking of first season when I called her a slut. Which not only was really great dramatically, but I was wearing a headpiece that had these two dangly bits, which looked really nice when I was stood still, but when I was angry and aggressive, they were sort of swinging like dog ears. So Brian Percival had to sort of ask me to be really cross, but keeping my head really still, because it just looked so comic. And that, I really enjoyed that scene for lots of reasons, and that's a favourite.
Penelope?
Well, I don't really have a favourite scene, but I must say that the ones that I've enjoyed doing and the ones that are the ensemble scenes. Some of the scenes around the dinner table we have are agony to do, but when I've seen them, they are enormously enjoyable, I found. We have a very good game we play, which is wink murder, because it takes so long to do these scenes, because everyone has to be covered. So we put little bits of paper in the mustard pot and pass it round the scene, and one person gets one with a cross on it, and we have conversations, of course, while they're lighting. And then we kill someone by winking at them. So those scenes have been terribly enjoyable, especially if you're sitting in front of food, which started at 8 o'clock looking quite appetizing, and by 7 o'clock in the evening, if you look at it, you feel a little bit...
Yeah, we definitely don't do fish.
No.
Yeah.
You feel a little bit... it's still there. And
Because
so
those scenes, so, Chris, talk a bit about those, how you put those scenes together, because the cameras have to move from one end to the other, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think this year we've nailed the dining room scenes. we did one in a half a day this year. I mean, it was amazing. So it just becomes just practicalities. So again, our directors have a big picture of the dining room table, and they just put all their camera positions, because obviously if we're talking here, obviously it's not just the singles on each of us, but it's the singles from everyone's eye line. So you could have 3 or 4 different shots on one person. So they do take. We had one dining room scene in season 3, I think, that took 2 days.
Yes.
And the servants' hall is quite bad as well. I didn't realise until I visited when they were doing the scene, and it's the same thing. If you're sat around a table with 8 or 9 or 10 people, that's a really long day.
Yeah. So it really does become about the practicalities. And like I say, it sounds so simple, but a piece of paper with all of the camera shots on, and then the first AD just goes, "Okay, everyone, we're moving on to 3 and 4," and everyone goes, "That means we can get out now." And you just literally work your way around the table. It's very slow and.
And the continuity must be a swine.
Oh, I tell you, I feel for the servants actually, because if you think,
And they're brilliant.
Jim and the boys are just great, because they have to pour at exactly the same point, and they have to serve and lean in at exactly the same point each time. And often you can then have a camera in the way, so you see footmen having to sort of juggle over things, getting behind it, and then still gracefully come in at the right point.
Well, and one brilliant time, Ed Spaliers was serving Lily James some piece of, I don't know what it was.
Cake.
It was a fish cake. And continuity, that art department that day, slightly eye off the ball, and had forgot to reset Lily's plate. So she looked at Ed and looked down and thought, I'm going to ruin this shot if I don't take it. So she just took it anyway and put it on the tablecloth. And Ed just stood there trying so hard not to laugh. And his hand was shaking, and Lily was shaking. We were all looking at it, but it was someone was doing dialogue in the foreground. So she was a pro. Ed was a pro. But,
Ed was the best at managing the track, actually. He could really jump
And you
in.
presumably, Chris, were thinking, how many spare tablecloths
Yeah.
have you got?
Yeah.
I love it. She just didn't say stop, I don't have a plate. She just carried on.
Yeah.
There is no blooper reel, is there?
No, no.
Yeah, there is. Somewhere there is.
Practically, obviously, it is much easier in the studio, because you can take a wall out. You can't do that in a period house. But what's brilliant about our crew, and hats off to them, because we work so often in period properties, they are the masters of looking after these places. And you have to remember that this place that we go to every day, which is stunning, but it is somebody's home, and you have to treat it with the respect that it deserves. And so, for instance, we don't move anything ourselves. If we need to move a clock, we ask the house to do it. You know what I mean? Just because obviously we have to protect it, and we put lashings of plastic down over everything, tennis balls on the bottom of every stand. So I think everyone just has to have the respect that the house deserves and look after it. And we didn't break anything.
As far as we're concerned, it's in any of the locations that we work in, particularly Highclere, it's wonderful to be in those big drawing rooms with all those original paintings around you, because it does give those high ceilings in the hallway. The hall is an enormous area, and it goes right up high, so it gives the whole thing a feeling of it's a wonderful backdrop to the series, and gives it an authenticity that I don't think with the very best set you would get quite such depth as you do in the original plays.
Well, now we've got onto the fish cake anecdotes. I wish we could carry on, but there is another screening in here, so we are going to have to wind up, I'm afraid. I have one final question that I want to ask all of you. That's like the comedy one at the end of question time. What are you going to miss the most when Downton finishes and the dust settles, Chris? What will you miss the most?
It sounds a little bit of a cliche, but it's a family. It's I always love that we're making a show about a family, and we who make it are a family, and you know, there's a huge amount of the crew who've been on the show since the beginning. I mean, I started in season 2, and we're all just so close. And it's, you know, it's so rare. Normally you do a show for, show for 6 months and then you move on to the next one. And this has been our lives for so many years. It's everyone here that I'm going to miss. Yeah.
Penelope?
Well, I will miss some very good opponents in Banana Ground, which is a very good game. It's like a very fast Scrabble. And Laura is a particularly good player.
And Dame Maggie plays, I think.
And Dame Maggie plays extremely well. I'm afraid I come nowhere near either of them, so I'll miss that. But what I'm really saying is that I'll miss my fellow actors, because we've enjoyed our time. And I think it'll never happen in my lifetime. I don't think in my personal lifetime it'll ever happen again. So I'm delighted.
Anna?
Two things. I mean, the people definitely. I mean, I only came on board for Series 5, so it's only been sort of just over 2 years of my life, but it's been one of the most emotionally intense experiences, and I've loved every second of it. Makes me feel a bit choked. And secondly, the next job I go on to probably will have more night shoots, more stunts, more blood, more mud, and less civilised, beautiful surroundings, and I'm going to miss them.
And Laura, what will you miss?
Just the people, everything about working with this gang and learning from them and being around very brilliant, very kind, generous professionals, as well as really fun people. So, yeah, It's mega.
That's a great note to end this on. My panel have been Laura Carmichael, Anna Robbins, Penelope Wilton, and Chris Croucher. Please join me in thanking them.